Hey Shooby-Doodlers, how are you doing? Today I have got a Skype interview for you with John Shelley, who is a very experienced illustrator. He's done children's books and advertising work, and he started off in Great Britain but went out to Japan, and we talk quite a bit about the influence of Japan on his work in this interview, and come round to what he's doing now, which is what I want you to be doing now, but we'll talk about that later on in this video. So let's not talk about it. Let's meet John Shelley. John first trained at the Bournville School of Art.
Bournville School of Art, yes.
Bournville School of Art, is that still there, or has that been
No, it closed down in 2012. It was one of the first art schools which were actually built. It was always an art school. It was designed, built, and in the late Victorians by the Bournville brothers.
We have a worldwide audience on YouTube, so Bournville is like the home of chocolate manufacturing in Britain.
Yeah, and great. In those days, I'd get off the train from Sutton Coldfield, where I used to live.
Yeah.
And I'd train down to Bournville, and you just open the train doors, come out on the platform, and just go like this, and you just get the waft because you have to walk past the chocolate factory to get to the green.
That's right.
What they did is basically they built this traditional English village, built in this Edwardian style, with a village green, and you had the art school on one side, you had the factory and some shops, and it was all laid out just to keep them for the workers.
It doesn't strike me as a place to have an art school, because you think of art students as being wanting to go down the pub, and and there are no pubs in Bournville. There's no alcohol in Bournville or anything.
You've got to go at least a mile to get down the road to the nearest pub. As we found to. I mean, it's probably best for us, I suppose.
Probably, yes. So, what led you to Japan, not from Bournville? Then, how did you get there?
When I went to art school, I was very influenced by Golden Age illustrators, Beardsley, Rackham, and Dulac, the classics of English illustration heritage, and I still am really. And when I got to Manchester, I remember my tutor, Tony Ross, was my tutor. Got to stop doing that. You've got to come up to date. All that's all very well for those days, but you've got to be contemporary. So it was kind of beaten out of me. And so when I graduated, I had this portfolio of kind of what you regard as more contemporary, modern style work. And I was trying to get into children's books, and really I wasn't really happy with my graduation work. And I'm thinking, I need to bring something back into this, but also keep it very modern. So basically, I kind of just started looking at and come up with a new style, which was kind of more fitting, which was modern, and yet at the same time had throwbacks to what I was doing. It was just a process that continued on, taking stock, looking at who influenced the people who influenced me, and where do I fit in with all this, and and one of those was the love of Japanese art prints that the Golden Age illustrators had. The way that Beardsley was influenced by ukiyo-e, Japanese prints and things like that. And I just made that connection. And I think I went to the library one day and got a book out on Utamaro, and I had the same sense of wonder and that grasped me when 10 years earlier I was a kid, when I first saw the work of Arthur Rackham. It's kind of sucked into this world, and I want to know about this. I want to step inside that scene. I want to know more about this. Yes. And so it led me to study, not only who were these women that were painted by Utamaro, but also the design sense that went into why did he draw it like this space. Bought a book on old Tokyo and and I just got sucked. It was like one of these things where you can't stop yourself from just tumbling into this.
Yeah.
I just went along to their summer festival, met the organisers. It was a great event in Battersea Park. Somebody said, you've got to come to our meeting next week. I went along to it on the odd chance, as I was interested in Japanese history, not realising it was actually their AGM, and they were all volunteering for their situations. And the person I'd met at the festival said, so glad you said you're a designer, aren't you? You're an illustrator. We need somebody to do the design for our newsletter. And I think, not me, mate. I didn't know these people at all. I'd never been to Japan. I just got sucked into the Japanese community in London. After a year of that, I thought, okay, I've got to go to Japan. I haven't got any money. My career's just taken off in London. What am I thinking of? I've got to go to Japan. It was just suddenly so clear in my mind. I had my portfolio of children's book illustrations. At that time, I'd illustrated about 4 children's novels, and I had a lot of editorial work. And showing them to Japanese clients, it was just so different from Japanese work. I didn't go to Japan to try and forge a career for myself. I had one in London. I'd just left. You know. I was there to because I loved Japan. And I was in Japan and I wanted to study about Japan. So the work was a kind of just to keep me fed, really. And of course, not naive me, not realizing this was actually the best time to be in Japan for work. And everybody wanted to work in Japan at that time. I just noticed that Japanese illustration was just so much more vibrant, so much more dynamic. And it was all about commercial work. Children's books were much more low key. So I just started doing the experimental drawings and things like that. And I did a poster. A friend of mine, she invited me over to Osaka. Just one afternoon, she just took me to this design office. They looked at my English stuff and these kind of minor things I've done in Tokyo. And they said, "Oh, could you do a poster for us?" I thought, I've never worked in advertising. I'm a children's book, publishing illustrator. And they said, "Yeah, but some of my editorial work, this would work in a poster. We were doing this summer poster for this Japanese supermarket." And they said, "We just want a bright, colourful, Japanese scene." So I went back and I thought, "God, advertising, the posters. I've got to sort of sell this product the summer, So I did this relatively complicated drawing, which had lots of these little. I just threw all these English kind of. Thinking, in the English way of when people go on holiday, they have postcards and like ice creams and anything I can think of. They're putting together in this kind of jumble of imagery. And at the bottom, I just put a little man running off the bottom of the picture, and it's about this big, right, within this picture about this thing. Sent it off to the designer. And my friend got back to me. She said, "We really like what you sent, but we couldn't really use the illustration. But he's made a few changes. I hope you don't mind." And what they did was they basically just took the little figure of the man. All the rest of the illustration completely ignored that, and just took the little running man, blew it up this big, and it's a man running like this, and that turned it into a poster.
Yeah.
And that for me was it was when the penny really dropped in Tokyo, because there's me. It's not about children's books, but you're looking at like this. You're a poster. You want a simple, dynamic image, strong image that's going to go bang, and you instantly understand it.
Yeah.
I then took that poster to. I was trying to get work in Tokyo at the time, and. I had a connection with a Parco department store, and I managed to wangle a meeting with Parco. And I went to show them, and I said, "Oh, I've done this poster." And they said, "Oh, that's part of the same group as us." I said, "Oh, you see this poster? That's really great. So how would you like to do some posters for us?" And I was like, so I did from this little basically it was a small supermarket department store, and also I was doing one of the big. It was like the one of the big Tokyo fashion houses. Fashion, they had about 3 branches and places. So it's a major job, and I ended up doing posters for them for about 2 years, and they all basically were drawn on this concept of doing something very simple. These are the only things I brought back from Japan, because the posters were really big, and I wasn't going to. I just chucked those out. But this is one of the first ones I did. So imagine that. Yeah. Imagine that because there's no underdrawing, just a buoyant sort of bubbly line. Yeah. Color, very simple, and that is a big poster. Yeah. And they were in-store posters, and I did them for 2 years. And so wherever I went around Tokyo, then whoever I showed my work to was, "Oh, you're the Parco guy." Right. You're and that was the poster of the month or something in a design magazine.
But it's like so many things, isn't it? It's being at the right place at the right time, and having meeting people and connections. That's what got you kind of out there in the first place. Yeah. And
which they ignored my drawing and just took one figure. I would not have been showing them drawings like this.
Yes.
For their simple. And it was very much a case of in those early days, being part of a team. You
Yeah.
know, you know what the Japanese market requires. You're the advertising people, and you can see that I can do this. So
Yeah.
it was their ideas, my drawings, my
Yeah.
concepts, my idea, my
Yeah.
drawings, concept of the ideas, and usually very, very well. There was an illustrator called Katsu Yoshida.
I'm thinking of Satoshi, who's kind of did the opposite and came over to London probably about the
Oh,
same
right,
time as
yes,
you.
Satoshi
Satoshi
Kitamura.
Kitamura, yeah.
But
And
you can see there's a connection with the
yeah,
idea. I do know Satoshi very, very well. He's a good
yeah,
friend of mine. But
yeah,
but this guy Katsu Yoshida, he did these very kind of robust sort of art paintings,
yeah,
and at the bottom he would sign them in big bold letters, Katsu.
yeah,
And you'd see his posters everywhere. And it was a time when there was lots of money in Tokyo. You would have these kind of very creative posters, and the client would be associated with that. So rather than the illustration trying to say anything or selling something, it would be art for which the sponsor would be associated with. So you had the logo, the art, and
yeah,
then his signature, Katsu. And I thought, my God, that's marketing genius. Fundamentally, what you want to be very creative, very arty, and very
yeah.
dynamic about it. And if you put your name, if you write your name, that signature becomes part of the art.
Well, it goes back to Albert Dürer, doesn't it, with the A and the D and that kind of thing. And I remember one day looking at an Enid Blyton book, which I'd been brought up with all my life, and looking at that Enid Blyton logo. And then I think I kind of looked across the room at my Fender guitar with the Fender logo and thought, wait a minute. So I designed my Shoe Rainer logo and have used that ever since. Just, and you know, some publishers just don't want it on there because it's like you're imposing themselves on their kind of little
Oh, yeah.
world. Whereas
Yeah.
other publishers realise, oh my goodness, you know, we're getting this sort of extra publicity here, you know, extra
Absolutely.
marketing.
In this country, of course, if everybody does it, it becomes just like self-publicity, and nobody
Yeah.
wants you to do that. Whereas
Yeah,
I think what I managed to do, because Katsu Yoshida did it, if he can do it, I
yeah,
can do it. So
yeah,
all my loans did, you had the drawing, relatively simple drawing, with the Shelley signature, and
yeah,
that went out, and it was so the client is showing not only they're using this kind of sort of nicely crafted
yeah,
drawing, but we've got a foreigner to do.
yeah,
He's Japanese.
yeah.
It's the mystique of international.
Absolutely. Yeah,
I was very successful at that, and
yeah.
for about 5-10 years, that's what sort of maintained me in Japan.
So while you were in Japan, you know, there has been this explosion of appreciation of anime in the West, and kids now are kind of, that's what they want to draw, and they all want to be manga and anime artists. And I know sort of, so I mean, what's, you know, having kind of been in Japan and being in the art business, sort of, how do you see sort of manga and anime?
You look at the way it grew up. These were comics, which were meant as kind of a cheap asides. And when Japan was picking itself up, people really got into the whole comic thing then. Prior to that, it didn't exist. But publishing has a much more sophisticated books that has a tradition that goes back until the Edwardian times, you know, in Japan. So it always was, you have children's book publishing, then you have the manga market. And most publishers who do manga didn't do children's books. Children's books were kind of a separate thing, you know, and that's the way it generally happens now. What you'll find, if you look at the average Japanese child, they'll start off with their parents feeding them with lovely, crafted, sophisticated children's books, picture books. And then it'll come to an age where they want the more dynamic manga, and they will be reading manga, and they'll be appreciating their picture books, and they'll be watching the anime. And then suddenly something's going to break, something's going to suffer. And what always suffers, it's the children's books. So after a certain age, a lot of children stop reading children's books and they switch to manga. And that's particularly for teenagers. You'll find that a lot of, as a rule, that you know, the market in Japan for picture books is enormous.
Yeah.
But the moment you try and make it middle grade, almost no market for middle grade at all.
Right. Yeah.
And young adults were very, very slow. It's a foreign import almost.
Yeah.
So the only books that you would tend to get written for older children would be, books which are successful in the West and translated into Japanese, the J.K. Rowling's and so on. So Japanese J.K. Rowling at that time. That has slowly changed over the years. I mean, there have always been exceptions, of course.
Yeah.
But and then you'd get those children would grow up, and then they would be harking back to the picture books.
Yeah.
And so you have this kind of weird
cycle
of never really getting away from children's world.
Do you feel you've been, your style has been infected or affected by manga styles and things from having been in Japan?
Not from manga, no. People would approach me not to do anything Japanese. I mean, it's Colston Newcastle, This is why people who go to Japan and they say, well, let's do manga. I said, well, you're in the wrong place.
Yeah.
If you want to do manga, you better do that in America, where you're going to get a market for your work.
Yeah.
Whereas in Japan, nobody. Why would they ask a foreigner to do manga, which is a Japanese, originated thing?
Yeah.
To get that, you've got to get that not only with Westerners, but with manga artists from Korea, from other countries they would find it very hard to work in manga. Unless they could do something which is published and then reprinted in Japan and then becomes big there,
Yeah. And there is that anime style with the spiky hair and the Michael Jackson nose and things which all teenagers seem to sort of dreamily draw these days.
The manga world, there's always the hierarchy of sophistication as well.
Yeah.
I mean, when you look at most of the comics and the manga art that comes out, it's the manga art is standalone pieces that they're beautiful paintings, really well painted, absolutely stunning artwork, and you think, oh my God, Japanese manga is fantastic. But then when you step off, you go into the convenience store in Tokyo and you're looking for this, you won't find it. You'll find some really kind of, not particularly well drawn, very, very generic manga styles. And that is the traditional, that's the kind of the reading bulk of manga, what is published. I mean, I mentioned earlier in emails that I did some covers for a weekly manga. And that's because the covers are always there to sell the product, if you like.
Yeah.
But it doesn't necessarily have to be a picture which is inside the magazine.
So in Japan, you definitely don't judge the book by the cover.
They asked me to come up with a simple character, and they wanted a dynamic, strong line. And I did lots of sketches, lots of ideas, and the one that they liked is kind of a bit. I thought it was quite scary, but they liked it. So there's this character, right? This is the cover of Comic Morning, right?
Yeah.
It's done as a brush line, flat color, very sort of dynamic. And you got the comic. This would be about this thick.
Yeah.
To a book, and it shows you what the comics are inside and all these things. In this country, you'd see that and you'd think, okay, who is this guy? I will find this guy inside the pages.
Yes.
Of this. No, it was just the cover. Just the cover. So I did this whole series of them. So that one.
Yeah.
This is a very long time ago.
Yeah.
I mean, they just wanted this character in different colours, and they changed the colours in some, which I didn't like at all. Very much in the face. And you can imagine this on a Japanese train where they have the hanging adverts.
Yeah.
It's in between the eyes. Read this. Read this. And that's basically what they do. And then the popular manga, because these are weekly comics, and they'll have about four strips in them, three serialized strips, and then that one, and it's like, I did 6 altogether at least. So that's my only involvement in the actual proper publishing. Yeah. But the popular ones would then be re-released as books, and they'll be in much smaller format. So the drawings are tighter, and they will then have the covers, which are of the books basically, and those are the ones that people collect. The weekly ones you read. They're like the Beano, basically, the Beano and it. Yeah. But then they would go into reprinted into book form to go on your bookshelves. That's the standard pattern of manga production in Japan. So when you see all of these really super duper fabulously drawn paintings and things, they're generally not. That's just one image. It's
Yeah.
not like a series of those that's in a film or an anime.
Yes.
It's a standalone. It's there. It's a marketing standalone piece,
Yeah.
which is
Yeah.
to sell something else. You know.
Right.
Which this is what a lot of people in the West misunderstand, really,
Yes.
because they look at these great pictures and think, that's what I want to do. I say, yeah, well, there is work. That kind of work does exist, but it's not. It's not the core of what the comic market is about. The comic market is actually doing the comics, and that can be really, really, a studio, 9 to 5
churning it out. Yeah. You talked earlier about Arthur Rackham, and on your website. When I went to your website, I went, whoa, and my instant thought was Arthur Rackham, and you've got the little guy with the red swag bag, all in black, isn't he? He's got a black cloak and everything. All the creatures and the skulls and the bones, which immediately reminded me, there's that fantastic Japanese print of a tree made out of skulls. That came to mind, and that just came straight across to me as a kind of a mix of sort of Japanese and Rackham, and sort of Rackham got it from Japan, and it's this cyclic thing,
but
isn't it?
I kind of found that when I was in Japan, because I was doing, like I was talking about earlier, but the advertising work I was doing, so many posters and in this very dynamic or thick line with flat colour.
Yeah.
And it was just so different from my children's book work, because I was working, I stopped working with my British publishers, They lost me. I said I'd be back in a year. I stayed in 21 years. But it was Japan. And I thought, I can do that. I can just, I just took on this mantle and just did this basically tribute to my heroes, really. Yes. Which you've got to be very careful of course.
You do. I've gone down that rabbit hole myself too. So 1-inch drawings. Where did 1-inch drawings come from, though?
1-inch drawings. That was the House of Illustration had an exhibition of John Vernon Lord about 2 years ago, and John had set this exercise for himself some time in the past. I'm not sure when he did it. But he did this thing, this 1-inch drawing every day while he was doing his other work, and it was in the exhibition. Yeah. And I saw this, and it was just absolutely amazing. All these little 1-inch, there's 365 1-inch drawings, and they're lovely. I don't know if you know his work very well, but he was very, very tight black and white drawings, and I thought that's great. Went home, and then the House of Illustration said, we've had a good idea. We've had lots of thoughts about John Vernon Lord's 1-inch drawings. So let's just as an exercise, it's a social media exercise. It was, I think, September of 2018.
Right.
They said, let's just, everybody have a go. Just a social media challenge. Send us your 1-inch drawings every day of September. I'm going to do this. So I did, and so every day of September 2018, I did one black and white drawing, 1-inch drawings. I joined Instagram, and so I wasn't really putting anything on Instagram. But when I did these drawings, it's like having something on there every day. And like John was saying, the great thing about them is because they're only 1-inch, is they don't take up too much time to do, and it's very easy to do the drawing. What he didn't mention, in fact, is that it is easy to do the 1-inch drawings. It's not so easy to get a photograph that's in focus.
No, that's true.
The drawing takes about 10 minutes, and I'm like this with my phone, trying to get something. I'm taking 30 or 40 photos, and then, oh, God.
And then brightening them up, and because they usually look sort of brown and grey.
I put a pen in there, because otherwise, if I scanned it, you don't see the sense of scale. You don't see it. So snapshots. But anyway, I did this in September, and since then I've been thinking, that I really enjoyed that. So I find that social media best works for things which are kind of designed for social media. A simple daily exercise like that. I thought I could do a year of this, and I thought, well, I'm not doing any picture books at the moment. Just something I can try. I enjoyed that 1 month, so I thought I'd give it a go and see how I got on.
But you say they only take 10 minutes, but they take a little longer to think up, because your little 1-inch drawings, they aren't just a drawing. There's thought put in them, and there are little jokes and visual jokes and tricks, and so there's a 10 minutes of drawing maybe, but you probably spend the rest of the day thinking about what you're going to draw tomorrow.
What I've actually done, the process that tends to come up is like, I mean, there are various things that I really sort of fall back on. You know, puns and visual tricks,
Yeah.
kind of thing. And some of those kind of work best when you just come up with an idea straight away. You know,
Yeah.
it's like something that happened here, something in the using, bang, there comes the idea.
Yeah.
But you can't rely on that. So I'd say once a week, I will spend an afternoon with my sketchbook, just fiddling around and just coming up with lots of ideas. And usually by the end of that session, I've usually got about 3 or 4 ideas that I thought, okay, I've got a stock reserve of doodly. I can show you my sketchbooks like this.
Fabulous! Look at that! Look at that!
Just doodly, and these are sketchbooks haven't always been like this, but these are just because I've started these ones for.
Yeah.
But just doodly pages, just scribbling generally, coming up with ideas, and just pushing the pen around in some ways, or going on, just looking on things like Pinterest. Looking through art books, just seeing things which key something into my mind that maybe your double take on, say. And I look at something, that looks like, oh no, it's not. I thought it was a bit more interesting. But hang on a minute, don't look at that. Think of the thing you thought it was more interesting as, and draw that. And
yes,
you know what I mean. So I'm not sort of looking at stuff online to copy or to, but as triggers basically.
Yes.
And then just doodling, and so I'll have maybe 3 or 4 of these at the beginning of the week.
Yeah.
And then the rest of the week will be filled in with things I think of on the day. Sometimes I've run out of ideas and I've not really gotten inspired by these, and then I'll just go, oh God, what am I going to do? And then I'll have to sort of have a panic for about an hour. And those are the bad days when I'm thinking, it's supposed to be a small thing you're doing, not something at the end of the day, not something that's going to wear you out at the end of the day.
Take over your life, yes. That's it can happen, can't it?
Yeah.
But I think as an exercise, I think it's a really good idea, isn't it? Because it is small and you haven't got to do anything massive. Sketchbook is really the heart of it's kind of like a power battery kind of ideas.
Talk to people I'm one of the editors for Words and Pictures, the SCB online, and twice a year, on 2 occasions a year, we have open sketchbooks, which is an article which basically I get all ask the members, illustrators, send me recent sketches. It's just pages from the sketchbook.
Yeah.
And stuff that's just anything you choose in your sketchbook, and I'll just showcase a few of these. Usually about 10 artists each one.
Yeah.
And I'm amazed at how many people don't sketch. They don't. They go into their paintings and they do their drawings, but they don't actually use their sketchbook. I said, I've not been doing any sketches. Or if they do sketches, they're doing sketches from life. They'll go out and they'll do scenes and things like that. But they don't use their sketchbook as a working place to really, formulate things.
Yeah.
And it seems, to me, it's a tool. It's a tatty thing. It's not. I don't like these sketchbooks where somebody's taken this sketchbook and treated it as a work of art, and you open the first page and you go, wow, that's full of that. And then the next page, it's kind of, oh my God, they've done all these kind of things on it. It's like, and it's really crafted as an artwork, Because
but you are so experienced that some people will open yours and think that of yours. because you do it so much and you're so experienced, they will think that that's crafted. But
I don't like blank white plate, so I did that, just one full-page drawing, just to break into the new book,
Right. Yes.
First page going, so I just did that.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I had to start my new sketchbook, so I had to do something to break up the thing, and just so to get something drawn in there.
Lovely. But then I've got. I mean, these are for Inktober last year. These are obviously bigger than 1 inch, but these are drawings which I did with these pens.
Yeah.
So they're a bit bigger, and obviously these are a bit more obviously set on a page in a sketchbook.
Yeah.
But they're kind of meant as relatively finished drawings,
Yeah.
then the rest of the time, I'll have other things when I'm doing. But these kind of pages, same book,
Yeah.
they've got the working pages, and
Yes.
they're mixed together. So it's
Yeah.
you know. I all you mix and match.
Yes.
Some you'll turn one page and it's all scrabbly. The next, I don't think it's a good idea to be too precious about sketchbooks. I
No.
try not to spend too much money on them because
Yeah.
the cheaper the sketchbook, the better. It's the Japanese pocket sketchbook, and it's just there's nothing special about it.
Yeah.
It's not because it's Japanese therefore, but it's
Yeah.
just the fact that I find it. I like the fact it's got this cover that
Yeah.
is protected somewhat,
Right.
and it's
Yes.
the right size to fit in my bag.
Yeah.
And I like the paper's good quality. And I mean, I'll go on, this is all sketches from Tokyo Underground. And
Yeah.
when I go back to Japan, so a lot of drawings of people on the trains and stuff.
We're having an ice cream when we were out on our walk this week, and it's just because of getting them, just it's attitudes and relationships of people, and which you need to sort of see and draw those things to be able then to put them into your illustrations and sort of get those relationships correct, the meaningful relationships in an illustration later.
You don't think that you're ever going to take these sketches as they are per se and put them in an illustration, but it's different from taking a photograph. The fact that the process of drawing fixes itself somewhere in your subconscious. So you pull things out later, and that is why it's so important to do it, I think.
This little one here, and there was a man and a woman, and they're obviously having some kind of quite intense conversation, and but there was some. I was just so pleased with her expression, and I thought I'm going to get that there because there was something going on between them, and I felt that they knew each other quite well, but at the same time, I thought maybe he is actually just chatting her up, and she's going, ooh, and there's a kind of an innocence there, and I was very pleased to have caught it, and it's something that you can use later, and it isn't the drawing, it's the moment, isn't it, that you want to try and
moment,
Well, I'm gonna try and get my viewers to do some 1-inch drawings, and I'll get them to put hashtag 1-inch drawings, so you'll get to see them. Presumably,
I've just finished this sketchbook now.
Yeah.
But I started them in an old sketchbook, which is a bad idea because I'd already used half of it and ripped the pages out ages ago. So I only had a few sheets left, but you can see the problem.
Oh wow!
So this is a page of them.
That is amazing.
Some of these have been redrawn several times.
Yeah.
Because they're 1 inches, some of them work, some of them don't. And so some of them, like that one, came together really quickly. See, like I did this mole one, for example. I did three versions before I was happy with the one I finally used. I've been using a lot more cross hatching than I did when I first started them.
Yeah.
So, but they are actual. Probably, are you sure you did those at 1 inch? Haven't you just done it bigger and then made it smaller and then that was with the computer? No, they are physically 1 inch. This is the actual.
I'm thinking that anybody doing that with a mind for exhibition or something needs quite a lot of white space around them, don't they, so that they can fit them in a mount.
My intention is to take these to Japan and use them as a core of an exhibition. So what I would probably do is, the fact is, if I've done one that was really bad and I messed up, which occasionally happens, I'm going to have to cut that. I can't just do all, if I've got a block, I can exhibit that in a frame.
Yeah.
But often one of them is kind of dodgy, like that one is, there's, different versions. So I'd have to cut them out individually and put them in, maybe set them in sets of 3, sets of 4. But I need enough space around them so that I can do that.
Exactly, yeah. I'll sort of work out a template. I'm going to sort of cut one out and work out a way that so there is enough room that if you do want to cut it out and frame it, that you've got enough room to do that. Yes.
I can see here, so if I was to draw that there, I basically put that, so the width of that determines the space here.
Yes,
really.
I've got you. Yeah.
So that I did. Obviously, I drew these and I drew these, and then
Yeah,
that came this one. So I put the bottom there and the side.
yeah,
So I lined the bottom, line that up with that, and that
yeah.
gives me rough space.
I'll probably let you get back to work. You've got lots more lots more 1-inch drawings to do.
I haven't done yet today's yet. Yeah.
You haven't done today's yet.
I will say that it's a wonderful distraction, and particularly with lockdown and everything, it is a great way to sort of focus you. And at the end of the day, if I haven't achieved anything during the day, doing a 1-inch drawing thinks I've done something good for that, you know. And
Yes.
it's like it really, as long as it doesn't, as we said earlier, don't let it take over. As I said, which is why I've spent an afternoon maybe doodling on my sketch pad and coming up with ideas and doing some, looking around, see what I can find, and then, getting some inspiration. But the rest of the days, I then just put all that aside, get on with my other business, and then it'll come to 4 or 5 o'clock. I'm thinking, I'm going to have to get dinner on in an hour. Let's get the drawing. So I give myself an hour to basically draw it, photograph it, and post it. And usually it can be done in half an hour. I mean, maybe 10 minutes of the drawing. Sometimes if I have to redraw it, maybe 20.
Yeah.
And then, fumbling around with a camera for half an hour.
Yeah. and as you say on Instagram for social media, you really need to have something for scale, don't you? Yeah. So maybe you do. On Instagram you can do 2 shots, and so you can do one complete close up and one with a pen or something next to it. Yeah.
And I've just done a book for Bloomsbury, which is my first book in many years for a British publisher, with Joyce Dunbar.
Oh, right.
My local neighbour, and so she kind of got me on board. It's only it's an educational reader.
Great. Well, thank you very much. And I think I'm probably going to get a cup of tea. You probably want one. It's time to do your 1-inch drawing.
It is indeed.
You take care then. Bye-bye then. Well, thanks to John Shelley for his time and some fascinating insights into the life of an illustrator, and particularly about kind of working in Japan and that kind of Japanese, European, British illustration sort of mix-up thing that's been going on for over a century now, probably longer, and lots of insights into sketchbooks and things like that, and particularly the 1-inch drawing, which I will be taking further on the Shoe Rainer Drawing channel. So click down there and make sure you are subscribed to the Shoe Rainer Drawing channel for lots more drawing videos every week. And in the meantime, keep drawing, practice, and I'll see you next time. You take care now. Bye bye.